まさかあんな最後になるなんて。
You and much of social media. Continuing right from where we left off last week, the writers were taking on their respective villains, with Lakia dealing with Jeeb, and the other two with Boka. Yeah, not exactly the most even distribution of resources. To even prove his dominance, Boka immediately took out the MVPs of the show, the Whip Knights, with just one attack, and even before the Gavv could finish its stock phrase. The two riders only managed to survive because Boka had business to attend to, even though he could just easily finish them off here. But really, when has a politician ever properly finished their job? At least in Lakia's case, he was trying to protect Sachika and Masaru and thus ditch Jeeb. Anyway, we also got the opening where, of course, Daivo was also snapped out of it, which, considering that he always did kind of look like a Japanese Spider-Man, I guess it only makes sense. He certainly pulls it off better than Bell Ramsey. In the process, Hanto, wholesomely enough, admitted to Shoma that he was at least kind of right about Naival. I mean, he was still very much an opportunistic snake, but he did at least go out trying to defeat Boka, so that counts for something, I guess. Anyway, they also asked why Hanto wasn't affected by the mind control toxins, and seemed to confirm my theory that it was due to his granute organ. I mean, granted, they did leave it a little ambiguous, with Hanto claiming it was because of his indomitable spirit, but yeah, no, I'm sticking with my organ theory, and you can't change my mind otherwise. Anyway, and on that note, they needed to prevent any further toxins from getting out, so they tried to capture the evil Gochuzos with, hilariously enough, bug cages. I mean, to be fair, they probably would make good candy boxes. Meanwhile, Lakia apparently took all night to free Sachika and Masaru. I mean, I get they probably need to go and retrieve the antidote, but come on dude, don't keep the lady waiting. Also, are you sure you didn't just get some Windex there? But yeah, he first released Sachika.
おーい、ラキヤン。
聞いたのか聞いてないのか分かりづらい。
Bruh, don't ask me how your girlfriend thinks. He also explained how he had to human press the two in order to save them, which of course Sachika was totally cool with, because she probably would have liked if Lakia did certain things with her, plus she recognized that he did do it with good intentions. And the guy himself acknowledged that it wasn't exactly the most morally right thing to do, which is all that really matters. With that, they also released Masaru, who they had to kinda gently explain things to him.
なんで僕はここでスイカ割りを
You were tripping out for a good while. What, did I eat something weird? Have you heard what they can do with gummies these days? Speaking of couples, we also checked in on the first family, with Boka wondering how long his daughter was gonna stick it out with the femboy. Of course, Lizzo explained that she mostly married G to satisfy her own sadistic pleasures of seeing an absolute failure of a person, which was likely very true. However, as we saw in the last episode, there might have also been a little more to it, the same way Utena Hiyagi likes her magical girls. Yeah, again, there was no question that she was a sadist, but kind of like Utena, she seemed to enjoy seeing failures rise from the ashes. Though unlike her, she still wasn't completely aware of this fact. We'll see where they take this plotline, which I'm guessing is going to try to redeem the couple a little, even though they still have a ton of blood on their hands. Meanwhile, Shoma revisited that one area that they've really got a lot of mileage out of for this final arc. I'm betting Toei is going to reuse this set a lot in the oncoming years. But yeah, he went there hoping to find Longo, which he did, and got him to agree to work with him under the condition that he stop all the candy production, which yeah, how long until he breaks that promise?
Would I lie?
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, especially after they just had that little talk about how Naival was trustworthy, but Longo, yeah, no. Regardless, they didn't have much choice in the matter, as at least he did know the best way to lure out Boka, which all of the writers recognized. With that, Longo did his part by kidnapping Lizel.
この私にこんなことしていいと思ってんの？パパが許さないんだから。
I demand to see your manager! I am a manager. At least, I will be once I get my company back. But yeah, kinda surprisingly, Boka actually came to save his daughter, though maybe he was also looking to finally finish off Longo.
He's got those things. What do you call them? The gutters.
Pretty gross. With that, then after a pretty cool bit of two potential final bosses duking it out with each other, the writers joined in to make it a 4-on-1. Needless to say, this was a pretty awesome example of an enemy mine trope that was very much justified considering how freaking OP Boka was. The fight itself had some pretty awesome rotating camera shots just to get everyone and their explosions into frame, making for a very dynamic battle. In the end though, Boca managed to get the advantage thanks to his mind control ability that was likely a secondary benefit from making himself immune to the mind control toxins. Of course, the writers weren't going to give up, and interestingly enough, we ended up getting some perspectives from 3 different cultures. Lakia, as a full Grand Newt, was against the mistreatment of humans. Hanto, the originally full human, believed that humans should be allowed to live the way they wanted, and Shoma, the in-between of the 2 worlds, wanted to preserve the happiness of both. A human world where they wouldn't be taken to be converted into treats, and a Grand Newt world free from drug-peddling tyrants like Boca. Thus, rather poetically, he discovered a new power that blended the treats of the human and Grand Newt worlds by eating some gummies and rocks at the same time. Yeah, in any other context, this would be a little weird, and it still kind of is, but it did effectively display the resolve of the writer, as surprisingly enough, he got an extra final form outside of a movie. Statistically, Amazing Gummy is basically a middle ground of the Gulchipod forms, with being not quite as fast as Master or as strong as Over, but having enough stats of both that could be pretty much just as effective. Moreover, if you couldn't tell by its name, it was also meant to be a reference to Kuga's amazing Mighty form, which also meant it had some useful fire attributes.
言葉が聞かない。翔馬の熱で空気が歪んでる。That makes sense to me.
But yeah, while still not quite enough to defeat Boca, he was able to deal some damage with some help from the other riders and his brother, who held him in place for a pretty damn awesome triple rider kick. With that, they defeated Boca and ended all of the major threats of this series. I mean, sure, Jeep and Lisa managed to get away in the chaos, but I'm sure they won't be that much of a threat, so what is there to worry about it?
ようやくボッカを倒した。あいつの計画も俺のものだ。
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal!
Yeah, the episode ended with Longo usurping Boca's plans, using a big item that he had taken from Liesel to rebuild his company, as he put it. This is a pretty good third to final episode, though, yeah, it did feel a bit rushed. I'm not saying how Boca was defeated was disappointing, but I also do think that they could have built up to it more, especially in regards to the amazing gummy. That said, I honestly can't get too upset, especially when we only have 2 episodes left after this. I will say, this finale does remind me a lot of the head writer's other major work, Healing Good Precure, in the best and worst of ways. Like, I still enjoyed that series a lot, and feel like I'll come out the same for this one, but I also do feel like it suffered from rushing its final arcs due to focusing more on developing the main characters of its show. Now, that in of itself isn't a bad call, I just kind of wish that there was a little more balance in the writing. It did feel a little rushed, especially with the sudden introduction of another quote-unquote final form for our writer. Yeah, there's probably a good reason why these forms are usually reserved for the movies. And yet, I don't feel like complaining too much when I absolutely love the thematics of Shoma embracing both of his heritages as the hero of 2 worlds. Whatever the case, with that, it seems like Longo is going to be the actual final boss of this series, unless Jeep could somehow step up. Speaking of which, I'm not totally sure where they're taking his and Lisa's storyline, but I'm still at least interested. Hopefully, unlike her father, Lisa won't have too sudden of a development of some sort. Regardless, this is still overall a pretty enjoyable episode, especially for that great battle. I just wish the story didn't feel so rushed, but with only 2 episodes after this, I guess they just didn't have much of a choice. And it just really goes to show how fun the series was, as the time really did fly by. We'll just have to see whether or not they'll be to stick that landing. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want to get some indigestion from eating this stuff while drinking cola, might I suggest instead just watching some of our videos? We've got something new coming out almost every day, and with this series ending soon, we're going to try working some new stuff starting next season. Look forward to whatever comes next. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and... Are there some actual rocks in this stuff?